Welcome everybody, this is Christian from Sterling Knight Gamers, and today I'm going to go over the Rebel Fleet, or the Rebel Fleet as of Wave 7. And there are some great ships in here. We got Home 1, the MC80 Home 1, the MC80 Liberty, the new MC75 as of Wave 7, the Wave 1 Assault Frigate, the MC30, the Hammerhead, the GR75, the Nebulon B, CR90 Corvette, and the Pleta, I believe it was, Pleta class vessel. I really like all these vessels. Obviously, some I have particular favorites, and some are just really amazing in certain combinations. So I'll go ahead and start with Home 1. I really enjoyed this ship. One thing I like about it is the incredibly large side arc. The fact that if you have this arc pointed at the enemy, they can't fire at any other position. That makes it a good combination. Early warning system, which is new in Wave 7, so that way you know which side to make obstructed. Normally I use the command cruiser because it's all it does is swap one red for blue, not that big of a deal, and it still has the one defense upgrade, which is electronic countermeasures, which I really enjoy. However, for this current campaign, I'm trying the assault cruiser just so that I could have two defense upgrades, and I have the early detection system and ECM. So I'll see how well that works. The only title that I use 90% of the time for this class is Home 1. Now, as much as I like this ship, each fleet that I ever fly with it usually only has one. And that's because I like pairing it up with the Assault Frigate. The Assault Frigate also has very large side arcs, 3 red die, 1 blue die. So it pairs great with Home 1 with Akbar on it. Home 1 gives you guaranteed accuracy, which can usually lock down those braces, particularly on Victory Star destroyers, which this thing is great at killing. So you're shooting out 5 red die because of Akbar. You get a guaranteed accuracy, and that guaranteed accuracy is amazing when you're taking out flotillas, when you're taking out anything that only has one brace. It guarantees you that accuracy. It's very useful. What's great about this ship is that it can have gunnery teams. For a medium-based ship, it's pretty hardy. It can go at speed 3. It can maneuver around. Try to keep it in range 5 of Home 1, and it's incredibly deadly. So I like pairing up Home 1 with 2 assault frigates, and then usually just some A-wings together. Now, Home 1 can work with other ships as well, particularly if you make it a carrier build. Maybe you have some GR75s, you have the command cruiser, maybe you have Dodonna on it. But I think Home 1 works great with either Akbar or Dodonna. Next ship is MC80 Liberty class. I also really like this vessel. It has gunnery teams, which is great for its great front arc of either 4 red and 3 blue or 4 blue and 3 red. It has a gigantic front arc, so you can really shoot at a lot of targets, especially since you have gunnery teams. It's somewhat maneuverable. It can go up to speed 3, but all of its other arcs are really terrible. So once it's past, an enemy gets past it, you're really out of the fight for a really long time because it's not maneuverable enough to really bring anything else to bear. So I suggest keeping a navigate token when you need it so you can speed up past it so you don't get broadsided for too long once they're past you, or to slow down so you have as many turns as possible in which they're in their front arc. Now this ship pairs really well with itself. I actually enjoy having 2 Liberties together, and often I'll put a Nebulon B in the middle. Nebulon B I used to completely hate. It has 3 red die from the front, which is pretty good firepower for a small ship, but its side arcs are just terrible. Just one shield, gigantic side arc, so it's really easy for them to get targeted. It doesn't last all that long in battle once your side arcs are exposed. That's why I actually like pairing it with two liberties on either side, so you have them guarding the side so nothing can get in between, and you have a really large front arc in which this ship can maneuver around because it's more maneuverable in order to get that position. Sometimes what I'll even do is put two liberties and then actually put this one on the side if I suspect that it's going to be flanked. I'll go ahead and put this facing this way, so as they turn in, I have this facing my backboard, and the other two, this one at speed 1 or speed 2, and the other one at speed 2 or speed 3, going around. So that's another formation I fly it with. I enjoy flying the Liberties with Bosato because you can change those red dye into black dye or blue if you need more accuracies. I also like Dodana on the Liberty as well. Now here's the latest ship, another Mon Mothma cruiser, the MC75, which was used in Rogue One, and I really like this vessel. What's different about it compared to the other two that have a specialized arc, the side arc and the front arc are both very large and not so dominant. That it's At first I thought, since this was going to have gunnery teams, that maybe I would put Akbar on this vessel instead of on the MC80 Home 1, but I just haven't found that to be as useful because the side arc isn't nearly as large because of this wedge, and the front arc has so much damage to it, you don't want to limit yourself by not using it just so you can use the Akbar ability. In my latest campaign, I have Dodana on this vessel, and I both like the armored cruiser as well as the ordnance cruiser. They both have their own pros and cons depending on what upgrades you want to have on it. Use this as a dual arc vessel. A lot of times with gunnery teams, it makes you a little bit like lazy, and that you're just, as long as you have two targets, you don't need to make a decision. You just go ahead and make your fire. But with this vessel, it's really good to double arc something and be able to really lay down some damaging fire. So I really like the MC75. So far, I found it pairing well with Dodana, but I'm sure other admirals will also be very useful. The assault frigate, like I mentioned before, I think goes great with Akbar. I really like this vessel, particularly with Akbar. I know it can be used by other admirals, but just playing up the side arcs as well as it is, you just as well use it. However, it's a pretty decent carrier as well, so I could see people using it with Dodana. You can tell which admiral is my favorite. Now go into some of the smaller vessels and start mentioning more about the other admirals. So we got the MC30. It's another good small vessel, a little torpedo frigate. On the long range version, you actually get some red dye or you have some blue dye depending on it. Either way, I would definitely recommend assault proton torpedoes. Even though it has a relatively weak hull of only 4, it actually has pretty decent shields, and both of its titles are really good. So I would definitely recommend using either one of their titles to make your ship way more survivable. If you're going to use this special, I would suggest pairing it with Mon Mothma since it has 2 evades. If you use the Farsight title, it really makes Mon Mothma's power particularly powerful because Farsight allows you to affect 2 die whenever you use an evade token. So with Mon Mothma, you'll be able to cancel out 2 die at medium range or make them re-roll 2 at even close range. So it gives this ship a lot more survivability when you have Mon Mothma as your admiral. The Hammerhead is an interesting vessel. It's very cheap, even cheaper than the CR90, and it has some decent firepower of either two reds and a blue, or a red, a blue, and a black. I usually use the cheaper version and use Galen's Honor and just use it as a ramming vessel and a little bit of escort on one of the sides. Speed up, ram once or twice, have external racks, and try to do as much damage as you can. It really doesn't matter which admiral you use with this one other than Akbar, but it works well with Dodonna, it works well with Mon Mothma, it works well with Leia as well because it's a really cheap vessel, and being able to use the command token, it even makes it a pretty decent carrier because you get to activate 2 squadrons with it or get an extra die and a reroll or speed up more, slow down. Leia actually works really well with this vessel. The GR75 is also a great vessel. I particularly love Bright Hope. It makes it way more survivable than it normally would. And a lot of times at certain ranges, enemies won't even bother shooting at it. They'll do a AA attack against squadrons instead because they know getting any damage onto Bright Hope is so difficult because you have the scatter, you have the evade, and if you're not attacking its rear, you're going to lose the damage anyway. So it's a very great vessel. I like putting Bomber Command Center on it and allowing my Rebel bombers be able to re-roll their die. It makes X-Wings particularly more deadly and efficient. Pairs well with Dodonna. It also pairs well with Mon Mothma and particularly Leia, since you'll be able to activate 3 squadrons with each command rather than just 2, so it becomes it's punching way above its weight for as the very cheap that it can be. I almost always use the unarmed version because one single blue out of the front arc and rear arc really isn't that big of a deal. As I mentioned before, the Nebulon B is an interesting vessel. I really like pairing it with a Liberty, or ideally 2. I like pairing it with Sato because with Salvation, whenever you get a critical on your front shot, then it counts as 2 damage. So by using Sato, you can swap out the reds for blacks. So you have a much higher hit chance, as well as you still have those accuracies that each one of those die will be 3 damage instead of 2 when you have the hit crit on the black side. It can be used in others. Your Varus is also a good carrier, but it's just hasn't been fitting on my playstyle. The CR90 is another amazing vessel. I really enjoy it. All the titles for it are particularly useful. On the Corvette CR90A, I really like Janus Light. It allows you to hide among the debris in other vessels and still be able to fire unobstructed, but it gives you an extra defense advantage of being able to have those shots be obstructed when your enemy is attacking you. I really like it with Mon Mothma because it has 2 evade tokens. I really like it with Leia because it makes all of its abilities more powerful, particularly speed up and slow down rapidly. By having Leia, you're essentially being able to speed up or slow down by 2 because you get the command token each time. As much as I like the A with Janus Light, I really like B with Dodonna's Pride, or B with the new heavy ion emplacements. By having 2 blue and 3 blue on the side and rear arcs, that's a lot of die that you're shooting out for such a small vessel, and for either one of those upgrades, all you need to do is get 1 crit and you can start doing some really significant damage to it. Dodonna's Pride works well in any fleet, in any admiral, but I particularly like it with having Dodonna as your general because that way you get to choose to crit. If you don't have Dodonna as your admiral, you have Mon Mothma or Leia, maybe using the heavy ion emplacements would be a better bet, and you'll just have to hope that you get that critical. By having Leia, you'll have an extra die, and you'll be able to have a reroll if you need it, if you want to make sure you get that critical, and you'll be able to do significant damage to the enemy shields around it. Last Rebel vessel is probably currently my least favorite, but maybe that'll change over time. It's the Plata class. And the reason that it's my least favorite is that because it's relatively expensive, it doesn't have a lot of firepower, it's slow, and while it does have the fleet commands, you have to invest a lot in order to have that strategy. And currently, the Imperials with Crimea Star Destroyer now have a much better vessel for the fleet commands. I really hope they release a new version of the Home One, at least with some different titles that allow it also to be a fleet command vessel. It's somewhat survivable with a good amount of shields and a good amount of defense tokens, but I just don't feel it nearly as much. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's others out there that can find it to synergize with other vessels. I didn't mention before, but the MC75, if depending on who your admiral is, if you want to have it doing a lot of critical damage, maybe you want to have the Diana's Pride with it, with the CR90, or you're just going to do assault proton torpedoes, you'll do it with the MC30. Hammerhead, especially if you're ramming. If you're doing a carrier build, you would want a GR75 with it. Right now, this vessel is pretty versatile, ones that it pairs up well with. Unless you have Leia or Mon Mothma, I would definitely start your fleet out with one of these three large command vessels and then have a fleet underneath it. However, a swarm fleet with either Mon Mothma or Leia is particularly useful. Mon Mothma, if you're going to put her on a smaller vessel, putting it on Janus Light, and that way keeping it at red dye range, ideally hidden behind other vessels, either friendly or through obstacles. Leia also good to keep it on Janus Light. If you're going to have any other admirals and you're going to have a smaller fleet, then maybe using the MC30 vessel for it. But that's my advice for the Rebel fleet so far, and I hope this has been helpful. Normally I don't end all my videos this way, but it's more true now than it has been prior. If you could subscribe, that'd be incredibly helpful. Google changed the ad revenue rules that you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers to get any ad revenue at all. I've been happy just posting these videos and just letting it grow naturally, and people just watch them as they need them and not necessarily need to subscribe for every video. But if you could just subscribe for now, particularly while I'm still under 1,000 subscribers, would be very helpful. So thank you very much, and I hope this has been helpful. What are your favorite Rebel vessels and how do you like to play with them? So that's all. Goodbye.